Okay, so I accidentally blocked Travis. Sorry about that, Travis. If you're still able to watch, I hope you are able to resubmit, I guess, a comment on there. Sorry about that. It was Maria. I was trying to block the spammer. I accidentally hit Travis. Travis, no. One of our weather watchers up in northern Indiana. This is what I get for being a boomer and trying to work a computer that's got a screen here that's about 5 inches wide here. All right. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm with meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to Snow Talk. For those of you that have not been blocked yet, Aaron Wolf, you're lucky. You may be next. 43 minutes after the hour. Of course, we are tracking the setup as we head into the longer term, especially when it comes to the wind and rain that we'll be tracking. Not too much in the way of rain, to be honest with you guys, as we hit the next several days. And the wind, I think, is going to get attention, as well as the warm air. The warm air should get a nice little pat on the back. And then we'll get into the wintry side of this here in just a second. All right. As always, you guys can comment if I don't block you on Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, on Twitter as well. Okay. You guys have already figured it out. And I'll try to get some of your questions, as always, at the end here. But I try to hopefully in the next several minutes answer all those questions before we have to get to the end. So if you have questions, kind of hold off and just see where I go with this. And then if I don't get to where it answers the guidelines or the point that you want to make, then let me know and we'll circle back around. Fair enough? Okay, let's get to the snowboard. Yes, we have one item. Actually, you know what? We have two items that are on the board. Watching early next week. Now, there's going to be a big battle on this one for many reasons. I'll explain in a second. And then I do think we will have a push of colder weather that will push in at some point around the 17th and 18th that will be in a form of a clipper. It'll be an Arctic front. That'll be the one that'll set the stage for the colder pattern, the much as far as the really cold air that will be building in as February continues. And yes, as Travis was trying to say before he got blocked, I feel so bad. That it could linger into March. Now, I don't see extreme cold still in this kind of a scenario, just colder than normal. And that is the reason why it's going to be a little more on the miserable side. Even for snow lovers, it may be a bit painful because it will delay a lot of the spring warmth that we normally get excited to experience. in the month of March. It's going to be a bit of a delay, although I feel like we're becoming professionals at that because the delay is happening a lot in the past decade where it takes a while to get spring going, right? We end up cool. In some cases, it pushes it awful close to Derby time before we can snap out of it. And this year, we really want to snap out of it early enough because we have the solar eclipse coming up on April the 8th, counting down about 2 months away. And we've got a 65% chance of it being a cloudy day already. That's already just in the climatology of that date and that time of day at 3:05 p.m. That will be a challenge on cloud cover. So let's hope we break out of it by that point. I'm sure we will, right? Sure we will. All right, let's get into the current setup outside. What a beautiful sky out there. We've got some high-level cirrus clouds will be with us today. Cold and frosty this morning, but that's it on the cold, frosty mornings for a while as we have a warmer pattern that's going to take over for the next several days. And today will be a nice, dry, not overly breezy, but a very much a mild setup. We got temperatures now in the 30s. Doesn't really feel like it because it's another setup today where the thermometer is rising steadily as I'm talking to you guys. It's rising. So even by lunch, it'll feel decent. And this afternoon, everyone's going to be out. It's going to be busy in the neighborhood today with a lot of folks walking and taking the dog out and the kids, I'm sure, outside playing basketball. So it's going to be one of those spring type of days coming our way for this afternoon. Not a ton of sun as far as a blue sky. High-level clouds will rule, but at least it will be mild, and that's a nice little bonus. Okay, so the satellite shows a batch actually of a little bit more of a mid-level cloud deck, still fairly high up, but it's kind of in between there. That is drifting over parts of Louisville now and west central Kentucky, sliding to the south and east. These move relatively fast because they're so high in the atmosphere, so they're not slow moving. Have to roll away. They get stuck. They're not like low clouds, right? These high-level clouds can zip on by quickly. So you'll end up going with back and forth the blue sky and high overcast for today. Let's get into Futurecast. It shows that trend. The models, we're likely going to go over that mark by a couple degrees, especially in Louisville. Very classic setup to see that happen. We get into tonight and early tomorrow. The one thing you'll notice tomorrow, and it will be actually near this time, the wind is going to ramp up, gust of 35 miles per hour, maybe even a touch higher. So that will get your attention for tomorrow. But that's a good thing because that warmer flow of air is what is allowing us to get the thermometer up with even cloud cover. So that wind is key. It's just going to be a bit annoying to have it come by. As we get into the Thursday evening time period, you'll see a band of showers that'll be passing through. But right now, this is not really a prime setup yet. This is a prefrontal wave of rainfall, and it really has got a big battle ahead of it because there's just so much dry air at play. So this one right now looks to be tame, probably 1 or 2 windshield wiper clicks, and that's about it. And again, that's going to be tomorrow evening that we're talking about, that this would roll on by. As it does so, we'll then stay in the mild, warm pattern all the way into Friday. The key on Friday is this cloud shield that is showing up in the lower layers of the atmosphere Friday afternoon that's heading northbound. Now, here's the thing. We'll have some showers around Friday morning. It does not look to be as nearly as wet as what it did look like, by the way. But if we don't get that cloud shield or it's delayed in getting here, we do have a narrow window for about 2 to 3 hours on Friday where we can get into the mid-60s, if not upper 60s. That window is certainly open, but it will depend on the race of this cloud deck moving in. Now, typically, they do move a little fast. As I mentioned earlier, this is a lower deck, so they do at least move slower than the higher deck will. So we'll see if that can be a trade out, and maybe we can get a nice little bonus in about 65 to 68, something like that. Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be really great. It'd be the warmest day of the year if we get that. If the clouds get here too fast, only 65, 64 or something like that. I'm sorry. I know, chilly. But either way, not a bad setup, and then there'll be a Friday, so that's another bonus on that. So when does the rain spike? Well, that looks to be Saturday morning. That's when the heaviest of the rain and the most widespread rain chance will kick in. It's not an all-day rain, just Saturday morning. This is the Euro showing the temperatures and the setup. And the storm track is fairly active, by the way. A lot of systems are moving in across the southern wave here. There's kind of ripples, multiple ones passing on by, while you got several systems kind of clipping across the northern part of the country. That's important. I'll come back around to that. But these little southern ripples, the reason why the showers are not overly organized. We don't have too much of an organized system until we really get into Monday. Then we have a low that actually will close off, and then that's when things get a little more interesting. But until then, it's just kind of a waves of showers overall. And the more south you are, the higher the chance. The more north you are, the lower the chance will be. This is the Euro, as I mentioned. All right, we get into Saturday afternoon. Most of that steady rain shield, because the Euro on this particular model is running about a 6-hour grid. Not to get all technical, but it shows data a little off on timing, so you got to keep that in mind. So most of this is already going to be moving out of our area. Here comes the next low. This is the closed low idea. And I mentioned this earlier in the week that the track was way south originally. Then I think it was Monday afternoon. It went crazy and took the track straight into Chicago, gave us a severe weather event for Sunday into Monday. Now it's a little more in the split area, which I think is likely where it'll be. I think the truth will be in the middle of the two ideas that keep getting played out, which if it's the middle of the road, which likely it will be, that will put the low passing very close to Nashville, if not Jackson, Kentucky, as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Now, the northwest side is the deformation zone, as we've talked about. This is where if you have enough cold air available, these systems can make their own and produce their own wintry weather, correct? Okay, you guys know that from history lessons of meteorology we've been covering here. But this is very, very marginal. This is going to be tough. It may even need the darkness of night, Monday night, to really help it. But it's possible. It is certainly possible. As the Euro shows that as we get into Monday night, the northwest side does switch over to a burst of snow at about 33 degrees. It can accumulate if it can come down hard enough, and I just don't know yet if it will come down hard enough. It's too early to know that. But it is interesting that that scenario is there, and it is one that we've seen many times, especially in the spring season. But we've already seen it once this year in our region, so it may very well repeat itself. So we'll see as we get closer in time. The finer details, a degree or two matters in this kind of scenario. But this looks to be, if it's going to burst over to snow, it is certainly going to be a burst of very much a sloppy, wet snow. I'm talking, our typical snow ratio is 10 inches to 1 inch of rain, right? But in the Ohio River Valley, it's usually closer to 7 to 1 for a typical event. This one's probably going to be about 5 to 1 on a ratio. Yeah, so you're going to have a very, very much a slushy, sloppy setup that can develop. If it can snow hard enough, yes, it can accumulate, but that's key. If it doesn't snow hard enough, the warm ground will win. And it's a non-story whatsoever, other than seeing it fall. But it's something to track. That, again, is Tuesday or Monday night and Tuesday morning. After it passes by, we have the clipper that will help deliver the cold air. I don't know if this is going to be the one that's going to allow it to last or not, but it'll be the first certainly good taste of it as we head into the end of next week. Right now, this one looks to be a classic one to where it may have a little bit of rain or snow, but it's moving so fast. It'll be mainly moisture starved, so I don't see a lot of issues here with that as it moves on by. More than anything, it's just the idea that allows us to see the first little chunk of cold air get into play, to where next weekend will be a far different weekend than what we've had for the one coming up. All right, that's the Euro on paper. The matrix, which spits out the ensemble ideas of potential snow by date, and you want this to all fill in. You want it to all kind of get noisy and have every single gap here fill in with some color. Blue and pink would be nice. Those are higher potential snow amounts. Grays are boring. But there's also that wave there as we head into the end of the week, Thursday, and then there's another hint right after that, and that is filled in at all. But there's 3 that are shown up. I'm only going to just highlight the general window right through here of a potential signal for a system to come in. That's the reason why there's 2 things in snowboard. And this is the reason why the first one's on there. We'll see if that can fill in a little more as we get closer. That's the Euro. Let me show you now the GFS. Snow lovers already have seen this, I'm sure. You're looking at it like, oh, wow, look at that. Isn't that pretty? That is like spot on classic for snowfall. But if it's showing that and it's only Wednesday, it's likely not to hold at that level. GFS rarely does. GFS gets everyone excited a few days out, loses the idea, and then it comes back around 48 hours in advance. So GFS has got a very emotional roller coaster ride that we see. But I'm showing you not because I'm saying this is going to be the idea that will play out. It's just the idea that is possible. And I think it's seeing the same challenge is the rainfall going over a burst of snow, and again, using the darkness of night. Timing is everything. So if this is a Monday daytime or a Tuesday daytime, when that passes by here, it's likely going to be rain. If it's Monday night, it's got a chance. It's got a chance, and we just got to figure out how hard it would then come down to allow for anything to accumulate, if at all. But it's something. It is something, and it is a very classic track for this to move on. And they actually agree fairly well on the general track of this. It's just the timing and the amounts is what's varying. And for all intents and purposes, the UK Met model, which is the one I can't display here, but it's very similar to what the GFS has, by the way. So, okay, so it moves on by. It doesn't really show the Clipper impact that's the first time around for next Thursday. It waits until the next weekend and then drops it down. So there's a bit of a delay on that push of Arctic air that tries to move in a little bit later into the window there. Euro's a little faster. GFS a little bit slower. Canadian, by the way, is similar to the Euro, but which the Canadian typically is close to the Euro anyway. Looking at the GFS, and so I don't know if you guys can read this. Let me take this off. This is the GFS ensembles. Not exactly a matrix per se. It's a different kind of view of the potential, but I think it does a really good way to explain this. Here's your rain Saturday night. That spike. Saturday morning, excuse me. Here's Monday into Tuesday. You see where it's got the green, where rain is the dominant precipitation type. You get into Monday night, and it goes to blue, indicating that snow is the dominant type, and then it goes back over likely to rain or drizzle or some form as we get back to daytime on Tuesday. So you can see it's really just aiming on a nighttime potential on that. And yeah, it is giving some amounts, generally, a couple inches is what it's trying to show. Yeah, it does have some that are higher, but the reason for that is obviously rates and amount of moisture available, but you can't look at that right now because you're going to get some wide ranges. But it is interesting to see that trend there. Hold on one second. I got another spammer. This time I'll try not to block anybody. Sorry about that. I really hope Travis can get back in. I should probably find him. I'll find him a note. Okay. So after that passes by, then we get a bit of a challenge here on the timing of it for the Clipper for later next week. This is looking at the atmosphere as far as energy. And I wanted to show this because the challenge here, and this looks really messy. It looks like tomato soup thrown onto a map here. I'll explain here in a second once it stops looping. But what we're looking at is two different features on the weather map for next week. Okay, here is our low. Whoop, I can't even draw it now. But there's the center of the low right there across. If you look carefully, right over Arkansas, that's our southern wave passing through Arkansas to Tennessee. But also keep an eye on the dip of red that is showing up right there in Minnesota and the Great Lakes. See how that dips down? And then they try to phase right there into New England and the Northeast. Let me rewind it again. You see the two pieces dropping into Canada, into Minnesota, and here comes our wave through the Tennessee Valley. This is where the GFS and the Euro have been differing on how this will evolve, is that we need the southern piece to get just a little faster than what it's showing than the northern piece will be. If it speeds up, it has a better chance for this to perhaps phase into a bigger system. The risk with that, though, is that if it does that too fast, it will cut north. And that snow band, that deformation zone I showed you, goes up to Indianapolis and into Ohio and moves us out of it completely. And if it ends up being the northern piece is too strong and gets too much of a speed and gets to the New England area faster than the southern piece does, this likely will get suppressed down to the south. So we need them to just align up perfectly. We need the southern piece to be just a little faster than what's indicated, and that will allow for a bigger system potentially on the wintry side there. That's the two pieces we're watching, and that's where the models are differing. So the upper air pattern is the only way right now to forecast this type of setup. You can't pay too much attention to lower layers of the atmosphere where I know it matters between rain and snow, but we can't look at that yet until we get a little bit closer in time. So as that passes on by, again, that'll be the end of the Clipper phase on that one. We get into the polar vortex side of things as we head into the latter portion there of February into November, into March. And you can see how that dip does indeed develop in eastern Canada. Right there lines up into the southern part of Canada and the eastern United States. We'll see if that can hold or not as we head down the road. It'll be interesting to watch. No doubt about it. All right, guys, I got to run. What would you say? Angie, you can unblock him if you go into the settings. Okay, I'll find him and I'll unblock him. Thank you. I blocked somebody by accident.
Whoops.
Yeah, poor Travis. I feel bad today. I should have blocked Aaron Wolf, but can't.
Travis needs to act right.
Yeah. Well, Travis is good.
I'm kidding.
Aaron's a whole other ball game. Aaron's a whole other ordeal. All right, guys. Listen, I appreciate it. I will keep an eye on the comments and try to get back to him and answer some of them once the blog is over with. All right. We'll see what happens. Nothing to get too excited about yet. No one get crazy on Facebook saying snowstorms are on the way. It's just something fun to track for now. Enjoy the warm weather. That's the big story the next couple of days. See you on midday.